Yes, I'm a great believer in using your influence to make positive change in the world. Lots of our role models feel exactly the same. They've had fantastic lives. Others have had more difficult lives. But it's so important that we use those stories to pass on ideas, to create change.
It doesn't matter whether you're gay, Muslim, because my family is Muslim as well, straight, not Muslim. We all deserve a chance to be successful and to do well in school. And to do that without any problems growing up. Sadly, my mum passed away quite unexpectedly a few years ago, but I was really proud that I let her know who her son was, because really that's the only thing you want to be. You want to be honest with your family.
My mum actually asked me if I was gay when I was about 18, and I had that moment where you go, oh, you feel like the whole world stops, and I said, yeah, I am. And I expected her to suddenly break into everything and tell me how horrible it was, and she was ironing at the time, and she just went, all right, love, and carried on. And it made me feel a massive sense of relief, because I felt like I was hiding a massive part of myself for a very, very long time.
They don't realise that the language they're using or the behaviour that they're displaying is going to affect real people. And then they meet the role models and they think, wow, okay, I get this now. I understand that what I say and what I do is having a direct impact on these people who I like and who are honest with me and who have spent the last 15 minutes with me having a laugh, having a joke.
I grew up able-bodied. I had the accident. I wheelchair had become part of my life. I have a partner I've had for 15 years, same-sex partner. She's also called Claire, which is ridiculous, but you know, you can't help who you fall in love with.
Role models has been really, really effective. They sort of see gay people originally as something totally different, someone that's not like them. And actually DRM sessions have been really effective in helping them to understand that a person's sexuality isn't necessarily their most defining characteristic, and actually those people are just like their friends and just like them.
I think the term "that's so gay" is kind of like using homosexuality as a negative thing, so it's kind of saying that homosexuality is wrong, which is a form of bullying. Like you're saying that it's not something you should be proud of.
There's a professional boundary that teachers have to respect. So young people very rarely get that opportunity to speak honestly and truthfully to an adult that they don't know.
I want you to be really honest. I want you to firstly put your hands up if you hear this phrase around school. Okay. And I want you to keep your hands up again, being really honest. You're not going to get into trouble for this. If you use this phrase or any variation of it.
People don't really use rubbish like that anymore, so they just say it's gay.
Yeah. So it's kind of become a substitute for the word rubbish.
I tend not to think about it.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't think, when you're using that, you don't think, oh God, there might be someone gay in my classroom or in my school.
To be honest, I don't think it's alright, because if there's someone that is gay, then you're really hurting them, and then they're like changing their mind on whether they should be gay or they're like thinking about it. Yeah. So it's obviously not alright.
There was a particular suicide here of a boy called Dominic Crouch because he kissed a boy in a game of spin the bottle, and there was no inference that Dominic was actually gay, it's simply that he followed a deer along with other young people that night. But he was bullied. He chose to end his life simply because he was labelled as gay. So the concept is that we speak to young people about this.
It's not something you can choose, it's something that's set in stone when you're very, very, very young. And whether you realise it, whether you're young or not, you end up realising when you're older, and you can't choose to be gay any way that you don't choose to be straight. It's just something inside you that you end up being.
Form tutors come along sort of not really knowing what to expect, and they leave feeling much more confident talking about the sessions with their tutees in registration time.
They don't know exactly what language to use, particularly when issues of religion or culture come up. We very much emphasise in the workshops that this is about discrimination, period. It's about equality, and that's the only comeback a teacher really needs.
I was involved in a session with the Year 11 group who are particularly anti-gay. We had a really, really good, lively discussion. Mostly role models have made us talk about the issue. They've made children vocalise the issue who normally wouldn't say a word because they are so anti. There's no form of discussion going on. We're now talking.
We always alert our parents to the topics and themes that we're covering in lessons and the themes of the workshops, and it's certainly not been something that parents have objected to. Parents have been very open-minded, and we've had lots and lots of positive feedback from students.
Ofsted inspectors will now ask young people, do you hear the term gay in a negative way in your school? And depending on how pupils respond, they all ask them whether it's challenged directly, how is it challenged, what work is done around this. One of our transgender role models up in Liverpool I've seen her go into a school. They really, really like her. She's a really good laugh. They warm to her, and then they realise that she was born a man, but actually it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. They all come up and talk to her at the end. It's really lovely to see, and they couldn't care less how she was born, what she's called now, how she identifies. She's her, and they really like her.
4 years years ago I changed my gender and now I identify as a trans man, and I'm very proud of that. I was homophobically bullied, but not by my peer group. It was actually by one of my teachers. And he said to me, "Is the reason why you missed my lessons was because you have AIDS like the rest of your friends?" And that was, that was kind of seen as acceptable. And when I found out about diversity role models, I felt off the back of that very, very keen to be involved.
With all forms of discrimination, whether it's racism, sexism, if we're not talking about it, then it's going to sort of rear its ugly head again. So it's important that we keep that focus.
So I think it's nice for the children to see that, okay, this person was a girl, but now they're a guy, and it's like, wow, but not in a sort of sensationalised aspect. I find actually the teenage children and the children that I've seen in other schools have actually asked the most respectful questions I've ever had.
We have quite a few straight allies who work from our partner organisations that come into schools, and they get a huge amount out of it. A lot of them are parents, and so they are concerned about bullying. All parents worry about bullying, and they want to be able to speak to young people and relate to them. The person that goes into school gets a real opportunity to see how young people relate to each other, and also to see that all of the things that the media might present about young people are actually not always that accurate. They're really good-hearted and they're curious. Our partner organisations get an awful lot out of the relationship. When you work with us, you get to come in at grassroots level. You get to come into a school and see the reaction. You see exactly where your money's going. So a lot of the time reports are written and you read it on paper. We take people in from those organisations to watch it, and they are our role models. And there's no buffer in between that. You see the impact, you see the handwriting, you see the post-it notes with the questions on, and there's nothing like that in terms of knowing that your dollar has been well spent. And some of the really senior people we've taken in from our partner organisations have been so impressed that they've signed up again, because they suddenly realise this is not just a box ticking exercise, this is changing young people's lives.
Right now we believe we are an inclusive organisation, both for employees and for customers, but we still know there is a way that we can go and be better still. The people in schools today are the leaders and the people of the corporate world for tomorrow. So for us it's a really important step. The first event that I did, it left me on a real high. At the beginning, them being, the whole body language and the responses to the questions being quite negative, and then towards the end, almost that total shift in how they feel, but more importantly, how they will treat other people.
No one actually came forward and said that they are gay, but I'm sure if they did, we'd be more understanding and try using it less around them, so they wouldn't feel so insecure.
There's one school we went into that we decided to do some surveys before we went in. The views that came out of that school were horrifying. Gay people should all be put in prison, it's disgusting. They'd taken the time to actually write these words out. They were only tick boxes. We did our role model workshops, and I read some of those responses. The looks on their faces, they were completely shocked. The challenge to them was, as the older students, they are role models themselves. And it really worked. At the end of the day, we were approached by some of those students. There's a couple of Muslim boys actually came up and spoke to us and shook our hands and said, "Thank you for coming in, because we know those attitudes exist, and we've seen lots of our friends change their minds today."
We only need to look at 60% of pupils saying at the start of the session that it was okay to use the word gay as banter. An hour later, that had dropped to just 9%. So it really does make a difference, and the impact is instantaneous and obviously very positive.
Always so positive, and you can see the impact that it's had, and it's so immediate and it's inspiring. And I really believe that given the opportunity, every young person wants to do the right thing.
I pledge to stop using the word gay in unnecessary terms.
I pledge I will not call anyone gay or call anything they do gay.
I pledge to accept anyone for who they are, never to make anyone feel alone, to be here for everyone.
I will not say anything negative about gay people, and I will also try and prevent others from doing so.
I pledge to never use the word gay in a hurtful way.
The thing I'm waiting for most is that I'm waiting for the day we receive a letter from a young person who says, 5 years ago, I was really struggling with what was going on in my life, and 3 of you came in and talked to my class about that, and I didn't say a word because I was petrified, but that changed my life that day, and you gave me hope.